Rick Horrow, MIT Sloan Analytic Conference, and we've had a number of people, as you know, who are the subject of considerable attention, which is why the gaggle out there forms effectively a gauntlet for people who are in the business, established, successful. The biggest issue is getting from the resume gathering point to the I want a job as your water boy point, to the point where we're actually sitting here and talking about Kevin Demoff, relatively mundane stuff like building a $3 billion stadium and putting a Super Bowl champion on the field. Kevin Demoff, CEO, EVP Football Operations for the Rams, but it's so much more. There's a better title because now you're doing a whole lot more stuff. How are you?
I'm good, but you said a $3 billion stadium. If it's $3 billion, I'm fired, and
yeah,
my boss wouldn't be so happy. So hopefully it's 2.5, but we're in the realm.
Let's say the economic impact surrounding such an incredibly significant piece of property that will now be the most important sports catalyst in the world will bring the total up with other people's money as well. Is that better?
That's perfect. That's a great way. At least I don't lose as much sleep over that.
Well, but it's really going to happen. I mean, you guys, in terms of what you've done and made that commitment and what your boss, Mr. Kroenke, was able to do to put the deal together will be a textbook example of how to do a deal.
It's amazing when you sit here today in March of 2017 and think about Stan's vision for what Hollywood Park could become, from a transcendent stadium, a world-class sports and entertainment district, 300 acres of real estate in Southern California, the largest entitled real estate project in Southern California, trying to harness the power of what we're talking about here at Sloan, which is the world of sports business, how it grows, how you connect with the fan with a great real estate venture. It'll be great to see come to fruition.
So, obviously, tell me, as somebody who's been kind of in the business of stadiums for so long, do you feel like you're halfway home, 60% home, 10% home? Depends on the day.
I'm about 5% home. You know, we have just basically finished digging the largest hole in North America, 100 feet deep by roughly 20 acres wide. Our stadium will start to rise out of that hole when you fly in out of LAX and you see the massive...
Seismically okay?
Seismically
did you
okay.
Start some issues?
Well, you know, LA has gotten a bunch of rain, no earthquakes so far, so we haven't had to test it seismically.
Right.
But you start to envision what it can become. The hard thing is in 30 months you're going to have a stadium. And from where this project started a couple of years ago to watch 300 acres be prepared to dig the hole to build the stadium, so much of our time is focused on the stadium, but not just the nuts and bolts. We have great partners in HKS and Turner Hunt who do that. But really, what's it going to be like for the fan who comes for the first time to enjoy the Rams, to come for the Super Bowl, to come for hopefully the 2024 Olympics? That's what keeps us up at night every day.
And so there was a bunch of considerable interest about your co-tenant and who it would be. Are you happy with the Chargers deal?
Thrilled. It's great. You know, from the beginning, if you go back to June of 2012, Commissioner Goodell sent out a memo to all teams interested in Los Angeles that said his goal was an iconic two-team stadium that could credibly host a sports and entertainment district. And I think that's always where we started. And so we sit here today, 5 years later, with a iconic, hopefully two-team stadium at the heart of a world-class sports and entertainment district. And I think the Chargers really coming, it cements the fact where people know this is an unbelievable project. Los Angeles is a terrific market and a terrific NFL market.
Without casting any aspersions at prior efforts in LA, and I'm really not intending that, but those of us who have souvenir openings of Farmers Field, we're still looking for it. And we all understand how difficult it is to do a stadium in a state where you need 2/3 public referendum vote for anything, plus the whole notion of public money is a lot difficult. How do you do it?
Well, I think Stan had a couple of key tenets that he made differently than probably other people. First is most of the projects before involved a real estate partner and a team. Right. He could effectively serve as both. And so when he was able to solve that conundrum, so many of the times stops and starts you saw in Los Angeles, as someone who grew up there, was someone had a really good piece of property, a really good idea. How do you attract a team? And when we were fortunate enough to be able to acquire the land at Hollywood Park, and we inherited a great project from Stockbridge and Wilson Meany that had been 10 years in the making, that had an EIR, that had developed relationships in Inglewood, and we walked into a partly baked cake. Then we brought the NFL, the team, and the opportunity, and really the financing and the wherewithal. When you think of Stan Kroenke is one of the world's foremost sports owners, one of the world's foremost real estate experts. You combine that vision, and I think this will really be the project of his lifetime, taking a great team like the Los Angeles Rams, a great project, and combining it. But I think the stops and starts came with how you put the deal together, but with someone already having the team, already having the real estate expertise, and really a piece of property that the NFL had always coveted. You go back to 1995, right. Hollywood Park is the only site that was ever approved by the NFL for a stadium. Yeah. That's really how it came together.
Raiderized, which made it a little bit difficult as well. I guess you could, call it a verb.
Well, ironically, the downfall then was that the NFL wanted to be a two-team stadium.
Right.
So when you think about where we sit today in the question, it is
you get what you wish for.
It is a two-team stadium at Hollywood Park, but I think a terrific partnership between the Rams and the Chargers. But I think it took someone of Stan's stature and vision to make this project go.
Well, and the other interesting thing, every deal that I've ever seen when a team has left to go somewhere else, nobody ever thinks that they were treated well in the city that was leaving. Do you feel good about the exit? Nobody can feel great about the emotion of it, but do you feel good about the exit process in St. Louis?
Good's not the right word. Okay. It's hard to take a team out of a market.
Yeah.
And the emotion, the civic pride that goes with that is something that you never feel good about.
Right.
This being a business decision and how it all played out. But I think the difference for us was, the Rams have been in Los Angeles for 49 years. They had gone the opposite route. They had left Los Angeles. That was hard. I think coming back was the right decision at the right time for our franchise, and to be welcomed back by the fans of Los Angeles, having been without a team for 22 years. With the Rams, go back in time, the Rams were the first professional sports team in Los Angeles. To be welcomed back that way, to see the response this year with 90,000 people in the Coliseum, I don't think anybody will ever feel good about leaving the market or proud, but I think we're very excited about the return to Los Angeles.
HKS and their ongoing pursuit of excellence, and we don't want to do a leading question here, but Dallas and Indianapolis and Minnesota, y'all are happy with what they're doing, I assume.
Fantastic, and I think the one thing that's, when we first partnered with HKS, that's terrific about their buildings is they're all cutting edge, but they all look vastly different. When you walk into US Bank Stadium in Minnesota, it feels like a Viking stadium. When you walk into Lucas Oil, where we just were for the past week for the Combine, it feels like Indianapolis. Yeah. Dallas obviously, set the standard for, what a really modern, large-scale building will look like, and we're hopeful we'll be able to push the envelope. But what excites me about what HKS does, with all the stops and starts in Los Angeles, there are people who have worked in those buildings and said, this is the first truly Los Angeles-looking stadium that had been designed, and I give HKS a ton of credit for their vision, and without their vision, I think it would have been hard for us to show the NFL what we could do and to win the race for Los Angeles.
So let's talk about Olympics relative to the race to Los Angeles. So best of all worlds, I would guess, if you look at the LA bid, and this is an international show, but I'm an American, so we're going to structure it the way I want to, okay? So you look at the Paris bid, they don't have a $2.5 billion stadium at the end of the celebration with the iconic Coliseum opening. I assume it's a good thing, and you feel good about playing a role in that whole effort.
When we were going through this process, Casey Wasserman, my former boss, was always excited because the plan for sustainability of an Olympic movement in Los Angeles, using existing buildings, I think to be able to build a world-class stadium that can host the opening and closing ceremonies working with the Coliseum gives Los Angeles a huge advantage, because it's a stadium that would be built as an Olympic stadium, a modern stadium, but without the cost of doing it for the Olympics. And I think it also, that private investment in the Los Angeles sporting community shows the IOC and the rest of the world what kind of sports market Los Angeles is, what kind of modern market Los Angeles is, and really helps shape the bid and influence it. They had done a ton of great work. I think Los Angeles would have been a terrific bid proponent even without our stadium coming on board, but we think it just makes it that much better.
Neat PR, Angela Ruggiero, who's wonderful as the Chief Strategy Officer, has a saying when we did our interview that the time it takes to build a stadium is now devoted to making the athletes feel more comfortable and all, because we don't have to build one. So she's sending a couple of interesting messages there.
I think one of the things that we were fortunate enough to do was to really take this concept of a sports and entertainment district, which would be an Olympic Village type concept, and really offer it up to the LA24 bid as part of what they were already doing. And I think one of the things when you look at from an athlete, you always want a chance to compete in the world's greatest venues and iconic venues. And I think when you look at what Los Angeles has to offer, iconic venues like the Coliseum, like the Rose Bowl, new venues like ours, like the new LAFC stadium that's coming on board, it's like some of the Staples Center. I think that's really a great blend, and for the athletes, the ability to stay at UCLA, to host those things, I think it's a really fantastic bid, and I give Casey, Angela, Gene Sykes, and the crew a lot of positive, kudos for that.
All right, let's talk. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about on the field. Any additional pressure in creating a different timeline and expectation about the Rams? A, because you haven't been that good for so long, and B, because of the new stadium?
Yeah, I think there's always pressure to win. I think there's new pressures. You go to sell a $2.5 billion stadium that combines that, and when you look at the success of a team like the Falcons this year, moving to a new building and having a Super Bowl run, what the 49ers were able to do with their conference championship and Super Bowl run, it's a great help to your building to be a successful team. But I think for us to come back and be successful in Los Angeles, both as a local brand and using our platform as Los Angeles to be a worldwide brand, we have to have that success on the field. We have visions of being a great global brand, of using our stadium, our market, in the history of the Rams to grow around the world. It's one of the reasons we played in London. We have desires to play in Mexico, desires to play in China. But to become an iconic brand, you have to win. And I think first and foremost, that's what we look at. And when you come down, a sports team at the heart of it matters about engaging fans, putting a great product on the field. We're thrilled with adding Sean McVay to the fold to lead that charge for us. And we think there's a bright future on the field for us in Los Angeles as well.
This is an analytic conference. We're heading to the draft. Now you're going to go into the bunker for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Is there stuff that you learn at this kind of conference that helps you in the draft?
Absolutely. I think when you come to these kinds of events, you're always trying to figure out how to gain a competitive advantage. We have a group we affectionately call the Nerds Nest, nestled away in our building, a group of very talented individuals who try to find any advantage they can, combing through data from the combine, historical precedents for players, and we rely on that to help shape the decisions. When we get into a tie between players, you always want to look back at what makes players successful. It doesn't change the elements of what a scout sees when they're up close, how you measure character, how you measure drive, but it really provides you a roadmap. And the people at this conference are always on the cutting edge. And if you can't innovate and learn every day in sports or in any business, you're not going to get better, and that includes the draft.
And clearly, when you look at the cacophony of noise over here, they're all talking about their own can't miss idea. There's not one person here who doesn't have a great idea.
No, they all have great ideas. They all can tell you who we should draft, and I'm sure in hindsight, they'll all be great decisions.
And they'll all be right for their own time and their own minute.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of interesting from that perspective. So, in terms of dealing with agents, you learned how to deal with agents when you were, what, 2, 3?
I probably sooner than that. 6 months, right?
Right.
When you were being told to stop crying by an agent, it's not the first time I heard it, and it won't be the last.
Talk about, for people that don't know, talk about your dad, your family, and that kind of the history there.
I was fortunate enough to grow up. My father was one of the pioneering sports attorneys.
Absolutely.
And in the 1970s, and really grew up listening to the other side of the phone, and I wound up a family trader going into management as opposed to being, on the player side.
By the way, time out. Does he think you went over to the dark side?
Yes.
Are you okay?
100%. He told me to go to the dark side, but it is still the dark side in our house. But, I always grew up at the edge of the bed listening to my father on one side of the conversation, trying to envision what the other side was saying. And it gave a great perspective, I think, to our organization about, agents are not the enemy. They're our partners in securing the services of our best employees, which are our talent. And to us, it is a fantastic working relationship, but you learn the business at a young age. You're always trying to improve, you're always trying to get better, but when you can have someone in your family who's one of the great pioneers, one of the great mentors in sports, it is a terrific competitive advantage.
Well, and you probably won't want to say it, maybe I can, you can echo it. After the stadium gets done, and after you continue the arc of improvement, and there are free agents out there, the fact that their agents know that there is a history of agency in your family, that doesn't hurt either.
I think one of the things that's always given us a help with is we understand the agent side. All deals need to be win-win. They need to be fair, and that's a very cliche perspective. But when you grow up looking for common ground and understanding the value that agents provide, the service they provide, to the players. I would hope that that doesn't differentiate us from our peers. A lot of our peers have great respect for the really talented agents, but it helps us in our mindset, always trying to problem solve. And it's no different what we're here at Sloan trying to do. Everything in life is problem solving. And you have to put yourself in the shoes of the customer, of the agent, of the fan, of the media network, of how you can partner with them to best help the Rams.
Shoes of a cynical and competitive and fractionalized and everybody from somewhere else, Los Angeles as well. The Lakers looking a little better, maybe just from who they hired and everybody else. Are you? Do you feel like you're competing with all of those folks, or are they compatible? Do the tides lift all boats?
I think in Los Angeles you find tides lift all boats, and I think it's a market, when you look at the size of the market, both domestically, internationally, you look at the buildings, you look at the history of the fan base, there are 2 professional teams from every league, every major league, 2 major universities. I don't view it as competition. It's a terrific sports market, but you're competing with the beach, you're competing with Hollywood, and I think the other part that people mistake about Los Angeles, they'll call it a front-running town, it's because so many people come from other places. Yeah. They bring their fandom from the Northeast, from the Midwest, out to Los Angeles.
Good thing, bad thing for you?
I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
I think there's great passion in the market. What it does is, this conference will tell you competition is good.
Right.
And it makes all of us better. We have great friends at all the other teams, and for us, it's about learning. When you're in an environment when you can learn from 9 other good franchises and 2 other great universities, it should make you smarter and better about what you do.
Is Jared Goff going to be reaching his, when does he reach his potential?
I've got someone in here running that algorithm right now to find out when Jared Goff's
We'll figure that one
out.
All right, we're going to suspend this until we figure that out.
We're gonna
if it were only that simple, right?
If it was only that simple, but I think one of the things, he went through a tough rookie year, but we have a great coaching staff in place now on the offensive side of the ball. But also, if you look back at his history at Cal, 1-11 his freshman year, took them to their first bowl game in nearly a decade. I think he's going to have that success. Confident, excited about where we're going, and really ready to take a leadership role. And couldn't be more excited to have him as our starting quarterback.
So finally, if Kevin Demoff is asked to label himself, is it stadium and real estate developer now? Is it son of a successful sports agent? Is it the guy that runs the franchise on the field? Is it psychiatrist? Is it politician? Is it all of that? What is it?
I think hopefully it's a teammate for everybody in our organization and on our stadium project to help us achieve the goals that we want and to help us achieve Stan's vision. All of that may play into it. But the better teammates we can be, as a staff, as an organization, as a real estate company, as a content provider, the more success we're going to have.
You are awesome, and I may become a Rams fan eventually. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. So.